Hey guys, welcome to Gwent and to a monster faction analysis. I'm gonna check out all the factions and all the cards and I'm gonna release one a day, so let's see how that goes. And let's get started, shall we? And before anything, well, we're gonna get started with the monster bronzes, but I should say that I do consider the average value of the bronzes to be 11, the average value of the silvers to be 14, and the average value of the golds to be 17. And of course, anything above or below that is better or worse. And of course, cards that you put on your mulligan list have possibly like extra value. Like you usually like this. These are the mulligan list. What do I mean by that? Cards that you don't wanna play, but you just want it to be played automatically alongside something like Harpy and Arrakis. The average value of that is like 3, but some cards are more valuable than that, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So Arrakis, it's a totally fine card. You don't want to play it, just like a base Arrakis, because that's crap. You want to play it with the spider, but if you play it with the spider, you have like 3 Arrakis in your deck. You pay 3 cards that you put on your mulligan list. And I suppose I should state how many cards you should have on your mulligan list, that is safe to have on your mulligan list. In my experience, you can go for about 5. If you want to be more conservative, you can go for like 4. If you like to live on the wild side, you can go with like 6-ish. But I would say like 5 to 4 is ideally what you want to go for. Maybe, it kind of depends, because it does very much depend on, do you want to play those cards on your mulligan list right away? Because if so, they can go with like 5-6. It's more like the 5-6. But if you, these are cards that you want to hold on to for later rounds, and you gotta keep mulliganing them, then it's gotta be more like the 3-4, maybe 4-5, something like that. So like Crones would be a good example. If you don't want to play them early, then you're just gonna keep putting them back. But if you just want to rush stuff out like as soon as possible from your mulligan list, then it's gonna be a little bit safer. Anyhow, Arrakis is basically fine. It's like you're basically like, again, we expect 3 power and it gives us that. With the spider is like a average unit, nothing special here. The Necker is not that simple. We see that it's a little bit like the Arrakis, but we gotta play it. But like, let's just assume that we're gonna get all the Neckers out and no consume, just get out all the Neckers. So we get 9 value, 2 below the average 11, and also we are sacrificing. We are expecting plus 3 points for the mulligan that we are using up on the Neckers, but we're not getting any extra value for that. So it's kind of like we can consider it like a -6. And these Neckers are kind of worth it. If you consume 3 times, then you're just gonna get a 6-6-6. That's totally fine. Again, average value is 11, and you're getting 7 more than that, and you have 2 cards on your mulli list. So that's fine. And you definitely want to go for this card, in my opinion, if you're just like hardcore consume. But that's actually not that popular right now, but you know, those things can change, and I don't think consume is completely out of the game by any means. Harpy is a bit more special than the Arrakis, because it is a 4. It also damages for 4. Argument can be made that it's harder to get out, but I'm not convinced that is the case. It's a little bit harder to get out, but you don't have to go for like all the Harpies. For the spiders, you gotta have the condition of the Arrakis Behemoth out and consume something. But for the Harpy, you play 1 Woodless Spirit, you get an extra Harpy. Or you just like play some Harpies, like, and you're gonna end up with an extra Harpy. Like, it's not that hard to fulfill its condition, and that's why I would consider this card clearly 1 above average. And of course, this is like definitely a worth running, but it's like in the specific archetype. But of course, considering that you get it out 3 times, it doesn't get shut down, doesn't get banished by Peter, doesn't get banished by Martyrum, and you gotta get it out 3 times. Because if you only get it out 2 times, then it's bad again. Yeah, even if you consume a lot, it's bad. You just gotta get it out 3 times. You gotta get out every single one of them. And I suppose that is the weakness of this card, that it's somewhat vulnerable to counters. But Harpy, not so much. You just have it in your deck and like, hey, what's up? I got 4 points for free. That's why it's sometimes even run with Necker Warrior, because it's just that good. Wildhunt Navigator, excellent card. It's basically a +3 because you get a bronze on top. On top of you get a +3, and it's important to note that unless cards that require specific cards to be in the deck, this is not one of them. You can just target any Wild Hunt units and you just get out a free on top of that, and that's perfect. In my experience, you don't want to go for free. That's a little bit overdoing it. Maybe not. Maybe you can go for that if you're not Eredin, but if you're Eredin, then I suppose that's not a good idea. Even in like the full tryhard deck. But yeah, you could end up with too many navigators. In my experience, like you definitely want 2 in like a full-on Wild Hunt deck. It works great, and you just get like 3 power extra. It works great. Foglet is another example of like a Harpy-like, a little bit better than the average mulligan list value, which is expected to be a 3. It is a 4, but of course it has a downside and an advantage that you gotta only have 1 in the deck just to make it work on one row. Unlike the case in the past, but that's not the advantage. But also it comes back, so you can just put in 1 in the deck. You can establish a fog, maybe even just eat your foglet, comes back again. But if the fog goes away, so does the foglet. So yeah, that's a disadvantage to it. Unlike the Harpy. So in an ideal scenario, this is like definitely 1 above average, but it can get shut down. And if your opponent just like uses a single row weather counter, then you just basically play the fog, and that's that. And that's pretty damn weak. Definitely good card, but watch out for single row weather counters, that's what I'm saying. Gold is a tricky card. With this card, you definitely want to make sure that the first 2 rounds are not like just pass. Because he needs to consume something. Obviously, we expect like 11-ish average value. Possibly more than that for the trouble of running this guy. And we don't need to eat a lot. Like, if we eat a Drowner, that's like okay. If we eat like Cyclops. But he's definitely the best with the Fiends. You can just play the Fiends, they are 11, and they strengthen themselves up. Then you can just consume them with the Ghoul. And it makes them Ghoul to 15, definitely above average. And the Fiend is already average, and their combination is 11 plus 15. So it's 26 and 13 average, which is bloody excellent, frankly. And I'm a little bit surprised that it's not run more often. But gotta be said that, well, it's not too conditional, this Fiend is. You gotta have some relicts, and that is all. And this is a great combo. Only problem with it, there's no problem with it. It's actually one of the strongest combos in the game, just for getting that straight up points. But it doesn't like generate value, but like, I'm not gonna undersell it. This is great. Like, maybe this 11 strength Fiend is like, yeah, whatever. But like, if it's followed up by the Ghoul, it's amazing. Anyway, Wild Hound, play a Brightening Frost card from your deck. So again, you gotta have something else in your deck, something specific. And it has 4 strength, and that is pretty relevant. It used to have 3 strength, but with 4 strength it's more playable. You also gotta consider the Biting Frost, how much value we're gonna get from the Biting Frost. And it's tricky because the feathers didn't really get stronger when the bronzes got stronger. And the feathers generate 2 value a turn. Also, Frost is the most likely feather to generate less. Or, yeah, basically. And in like 4 turns it's gonna generate 8 value, which is not great. In 5 turns it's gonna like, generate 10 value. And like in like 6 turns it's gonna generate more than the average you expect from a bronze. But of course, Frost is the most likely feather to hit for less. So That's a little bit unfortunate. And 6 rounds just to worth it is definitely above average and unacceptable. In my opinion, you want to see like more like 4 to 5, 4 to like break even to worth it, to 5 clearly worth it. So that is what we're gonna look for and just gonna check out. But in this particular deck, it is actually okay. The frost is okay. You're only getting, we're gonna consider 4, that it's gonna take for 4 turns. Again, stuff can happen to it. It might just get removed. It might be just a 2-turn round. It might be just a 3-turn round. Stuff can happen to it. Maybe what you play it on just dies and you got nothing else there. And they got nothing else there. And also you might just draw into a frost and this hound just has no target. Like, stuff can go wrong with it. But ideally that's not, doesn't really go wrong with it. And you just get out like a, let's just say like a 12-ish point, but you're also like sacrificing like 1 card on your Muli list for it. So it's fine. You definitely want to have cards on your Muli list just for the extra value. So that's fine. As I said, you want to like have like at least 4, just for the extra value. Wild Hunt by itself is not too impressive, but it does make more sense with the other Wild Hunt units. Siliano Harpy. Well, you just basically get a 7, but it's more like a 9. And we can also consider this on top of as a value. So at most like a 17. But like, where do we attribute that for? Can be argued. It's best to check it out as a combination. For example, the Vran consumes a unit every 2 turns. At the start of a turn, consume a unit on the right. So if you play a Vran plus a Harpy, the Harpy is gonna be a 9, plus the Vran is gonna eat, like gonna generate like plus 8 points because of these things. It doesn't matter. We just see that combination. Like, it's 14 plus 9, 25, so the average value of the bronze is like 12.5. But of course, we can have like other value generators that synergize with the Vran, such as Rakus Behemoth and Necker Warrior. Siliano Harpy is definitely a person of interest, because it's also a beast, and that synergizes with the Harpies that just get out. So again, extra value on top of that. And the eggs that spawn are... no, eggs spawn Harpies as well, that are also beasts. So basically, 1 Harpy gets out... well, 1 Siliano Harpy gets out 1 Harpy. So that's actually pretty damn good, and we can just consider that as a 9 plus 4, 13. And that's serious business. So, one of the stronger guys to watch out for. And that's why many decks actually run it without any consume, or maybe just Dekimara just for the key, because sometimes the eggs get shut down, and the better decks tend to shy away from being too easy to shut down. Where do I begin? Every turn at the start of your turn, move this unit to a random row on its side, damage random by 1, and if it's damaged to the rest itself, deathwish damage random by 4. So it's basically like a trebuchet that you play for 7 and keeps generating you value, but it has 2 less power. In exchange, it just jumps around on the rows, resets itself. Okay. Like, maybe it can tank some rain or fog, maybe some weather. Maybe it can tank some weather and reset itself, so it doesn't matter. I suppose that could be a thing. And also deathwish damage random by 4. But this is a value generator. Do you really want to shut it down? Just by playing it again, if you just check it for 4 turns, it's like a 5 plus 3 turns. It doesn't do anything on the turn it's played, but in 3 more turns, it's gonna be an 8. Complete garbage. But it is actually a little bit better against Altus Thunder than Trebuchet, because if Trebuchet gets sniped, like, that's over. Like, you just completely got cleanly finished off. But if this gets sniped, then it shoots back the enemy for 4. Worth noting that it's a random enemy, so it might end up wasting a portion of its damage. It is just so weird. And of course it synergizes with cockatrice and Cyclops and Griffin. That can trigger his deathwish. Cyclops also kills the value generator, so probably wanna you do it as your last move, but even like this, I just don't get this card. It is weird. I like weird, but it is crap. And it also doesn't spawn a lot of deathwish. It is just one deathwish card. You probably wanna, like, this spawns deathwish cards too. Like, why would you go with that when you can just go with like Celiano Harpy Cockatrice, something like that? And Cockatrice is a Draconid, so actually it's not a beast. I just checked, just to be sure. Arrakis Behemoth, veteran ally consumes a card, spawn Arrakis on a random row, damage itself by 1. It got a buff actually because these Arrakis hatchlings are not range locked anymore. They just go like wherever. They used to be range locked. Well, basically you damage yourself by 1 and you're generating 3 value. So you basically generates 2 value, and if 3 consumes happen, then it's like above average, like above 11. Of course it's gotta live till then, but still, because you gotta have the brands out. And just consuming nothing not necessarily is a good call. It helps the neckers, but you're playing a weakish ram for that. And the only card that really like gives you extra value for consume right now are the Harpy. So like if you're just consuming random stuff, you're not really generating a lot of value. You're making the neckers a little bit stronger. You're spawning a little bit of spiders, but like, of course, like if you just play these, and let's just say we just like consume spiders, it's gotta be like a 6 plus maximum value of this is like a 18. 18 plus 6, 24 for a very, very long combo. Like it's come on, it's unreasonably long. Like this ram would need to stay up for like the entire game just to get that out. Like it's completely unrealistic. But of course, if we like consume something good, Arrakis Behemoth is not really something we really see these days. It's nothing really wrong with it, I suppose. I suppose there's just not that many good cards to consume. Like Vrain's all about consuming a lot, but like what else there is to consume than the Harpies? And if you're running Harpies, you want these Harpies, and you probably don't want to like overcommit. Like you just don't have to go for a lot of consumes. That's what I'm saying, because it's a little bit easy to shut down. Again, like this does take some time to work out, this Arrakis Behemoth. Of course, Vran is not the only way to trigger it, but Vran just generates value over time. Well, it actually doesn't generate value over time. It only generates value if it eats Harpy eggs. And everything else is up to the Neckers and the Arrakis Behemoths. Ice Giant. Frost. If Frost is anywhere on the board, boosts up by 6. So it's like a 12. But you gotta have Frost up, and we saw that the Wild Hounds are like okay-ish. Really not that amazing. But like this is like a synergistic card with it. And like dropping 12 base units is fine. But of course, if this unit is 1 out of 6 times is only a 6, then you're just getting 11 base bronze again. Well, average value. Again, like, you don't want to have, like, 6s. If you end up getting 6s, then it's gotta be a soul-crushing defeat. It's a fine card, just make sure you have a Frost. Anyhow. But I suppose, like, the Fiend gold combo is a really good one to go for. But ideally in a game, you want to have early game cards and late game cards. You want to have, like, value generators and finishers in a way. Cards that you want to drop early down, and fuck. I can't believe I'm bringing up this as an example, but this is a card that you want to play early. You want to play early, generates value for the turns. But if you, for example, had like a deck of 10 of these, then once you play the 8th one, like he's not gonna, let's just say like it's the last round, both players have like 10 cards. Like when you play this as the 8th card, like it's not gonna get a lot of value to generate anything. But if you play this early in the round, like you play the Frost or like any other weather, it does generate enough value, and it's great. So you want to like have the mix of like early cards and late cards. And you might want to have the late cards just to like keep up with tempo. You might just like, hey, I'm just gonna get out something strong, because you might just fall behind. But if that is not the case, you might just want to establish some value generators. And ideally, you want to establish the value generators as soon as possible. Anyhow, Earth Elemental is basically a 10 with some carryover, which kind of makes it a 10 that has a shield on. It didn't get much love since the bronzes got a little bit buffed, and that's why it kind of fallen out of meta. There's nothing really wrong with it, but there's nothing really right with it either, so... And it's definitely not gonna see place in the deathwish deck, so... And that does matter, like... Having this guy is like a 10-ish, and having this guy is like an 11, and others like an 11, that does matter, like having a lot more points. Wyvern, damage enemy by 3. If you have any Draconids in your hand, strengthen itself by 2. Problem is this conditional Draconids thingy is a little bit harder to fulfill than getting Relicts out. Wrong one. For the Fiend, I find that, and why would you really bother? It's like an 8+3, like it's fine-ish, but it's not particularly exciting. There are better units in monsters that we're gonna see actually somewhat shortly. Bran, of course, we ended up talking about this a little bit. By itself, it's complete garbage, but again, you gotta rely on cards to consume. And if you just like, if you just look at the Ciliano Harpy Vran combo, that's good by itself. And it's worth it. Assuming it doesn't get shut down. Again, Necker, again, assuming it doesn't get shut down, it's pretty good. Like, you can just go with this trio and that's gonna be fine. It's a little bit fallen out of meta. Not really sure why. The Frost kind of messing with the Harpy eggs. And of course, if you only consume one egg, then it's gonna be like a 9 plus only a 10. Is it? Am I right? Yeah, I think I'm right. What did I say before? It was a 14 plus a 9? Yeah. It's a 9 plus 10, so it's 19 for 2 cards. That's pretty damn bad. And also, these guys can get moved, these guys can get killed. And I suppose not many players are willing to take that chance. It's fine. I think it's fine to have like 1 or 2 of them when you have the Harpies, especially because the Harpies don't necessarily like spawn the extra Harpies, like for example last round, and you want to get out the other Harpies as well, and whatever, just get some extra value for the consume. Anyhow, Vault Warrior, pretty boring unit. It's basically like the Wyvern, like damage enemy by 3 if you have Draconids in your hand, strength itself by 2. Damage enemy by 3. Again, 6 power. If it was on the Frost to destroy, boosts up by 2. It's basically identical to the Wyvern. It has different condition. I believe this is better. A little bit easier to fulfill because the Draconids are... Or at least don't want to run it with the Wyvern. Like, I don't know. Like, this is a Draconid, the Cockatrice is a Draconid, but not much else here. And in a Deathwish dedicated deck, you probably don't want Wyverns. I would like to see some Wyverns, but not like this. Akimara, a Brazilian unit that can consume. It's very popular. It's pretty decent. You can just get out. Works with the Harpy. It's more conservative, frankly, than the Bran. Because even if your one egg gets shut down, you're still good. You just play this for like a... I'm not gonna consider the extra Harpy or extra X value that it consumed, because you play this for like a 10, and it's also gonna be because you're getting out the +4 for it, and also gonna be like a 6 next turn. So it's like a 16-ish if you consider the resilience carryover. So that's actually pretty damn good. So this makes a lot of sense with the harpies, and it's pretty damn strong. But for anything else, it wouldn't be that good. And of course, having keep on the board, having resiliency does matter a lot. But of course, if the resiliency does not matter, then at most you're just playing this for a... we're gonna play for last round. I'm gonna consider like popping the harpy egg of value for the Yakimara. So you're just playing this for an 11, which is still okay-ish. But it's not a great combo with the harpy, because you're just playing this for a 9 and you're playing this for an 11. Actually, well, let's just say 9 plus 11, so not great, but that combination is definitely strong. And that's why it's popular. Nike Warrior, rarely sent these days. It's usually used with the harpies only. And not much else. It's good if you can just get out a lot of dudes. But of course you're like sacrificing 4 power, and you're just gonna get that 4 power somehow else. If you only get 1 harpy out of this, it's not worth running. I would argue that even if you get 1 harpy out of it, it's not worth running. So you gotta get, if you copy harpies, you gotta get out both of them. And I'm not 100% convinced that you can do that. So up to you. For anything else, I don't really see it being used, or it doesn't look like it would make sense. You can make more neckers, I guess, but then you would need to like eat the neckers like all the time. And you would even need to be a little bit careful with that. Just like, let's just say like the friend is going ham on all the neckers and like eating them and getting the new ones out. But you're just kind of like putting all your strength in one basket, and it's not too bad, but also he can just get moved. So I'm saying it's not too reliable. Necker Warrior makes sense if you can get out 2 harpies, both harpies that you actually put back. Otherwise, it's definitely a card to look out for, but not too relevant in this meta. Drowner, excellent card. Moves unit and damages it by 4 in the weather. Without the weather, it only by 2. But also it can moves your unit too. So if you want to just like escape something, you can definitely do that with the Drowner. Excellent unit, 11 plus move. I think it could be considered as a 12. Many times you just have like an empty weather row with not doing nothing, and just like, hey Drowner, what's up, I throw you in. And that's why Drowner is sometimes considered the 13 or even more. It's a good card. Like, it's a very common a member of the weather decks for a good reason. And oh baby, we arrived at the other part of the deathwish. So Cyclops, yeah, destroys an ally, then you can hit something with that ally's power. But if you like destroy a deathwish, you get stronger by 3. So this is like a 10 base. Assuming we use it with deathwish, that is the assumption that we're gonna make. But what kind of deathwish are we gonna use? Are we gonna destroy the value generator Archespore? Like, that only kind of makes sense at the very end, maybe. But even that is kind of weak. I just ignore that guy. What about like Earth Elemental? Like a 10 plus 10? That's clearly not good. And like, I'm not giving him extra damage because we are killing our own unit, and he hits something for like 6. That's clearly no good. And I suppose it could be argued that it's better if you just wanna like finish off very specific and cards that would generate the opponent value. But that's probably pretty damn unlikely. I actually failed to like really think of any. Like, for example, with the Rotfiend. Like, the Rotfiend is basically a Dobratana Trapper with 2 more power that kind of does the same thing. Damages all units on the opposite row by 2. But it doesn't do that. Only does that when it dies. And when it dies, it doesn't matter. So you gotta kill it. Or like trigger this deathwish effect. And you can trigger it with the Cyclops. So let's just say like this is a 10. Plus the Rotfiend is an 8. So then of course you gotta hit something for 8. And can you hit something for 8? And maybe more importantly, like if you can hit something for 8, then you're wasting damage, then you're wasting points. But if you can hit something for 8 that would get out even more points, shutting down some value generation, like an Imper Brigade, then I suppose that's good. Like then you got more value for that. And of course, where you play the Rot Fiend, you would need to get value from his Deathwish effect as well. Let's just say you hit 3 units on average. I think that's generous, but like, okay, fine, let's go with that. Then, like, and it's a 18 plus 6. Maybe that's not too generous, like, it's fine. Whatever, let's go with that. Then we are talking about the 24 for a very awkward combo. And of course we got the, well, do we have any other Deathwish? It is just weird. These cards are just weird. Cockatrice also, like, it's a 7 base. You need to play 2 Deathwish units for it to be a break even. And does it really worth it? The problem is, the Deathwish units are kind of shit. The Earth Elemental sucks, Rotfiend sucks, Archispore really sucks. I suppose the Neckers don't suck, but do you want to have them in a Cockatrice deck? And more importantly, if you do, like you gotta have Consume a lot. Can you like put in Consume and the Cockatrice Deathwish spamming? Probably not, so probably no Neckers there. So that's out. So Cockatrice, how do we do that? Like, it's best with the Ciliano Harpies, frankly. And nothing really else. And sadly, the Cyclops is just no good with the Harpies. It's just bad. There's another card that can trigger Deathwish of the allies that it doesn't, well, Griffin doesn't destroy allies, those who have Deathwish, but has like 1 less strength, but doesn't rely on just like hitting people with their strength of the allies that it destroys, like the Cyclops. But it's a bit weaker. But hitting people, destroying an ally and destroying an enemy for that, definitely can be considered a major upside. Because you might just get some extra value for that. And I don't know about the Griffin. Again, like, Deathwish sucks, so triggering Deathwish sucks as well. Of course, it can be said that, oh yeah, but like, how about like trigger some Archispores, making this a 13? Well, Archispores are pretty damn bad. And random enemy, you might end up wasting damage. But still, it's a pretty damn bad combo. Anyhow, Vatan Longship. And this is a ship that I kind of underestimated a little bit. In the right deck, you can have 16 Vatan units. And it doesn't take too much to make the ships above average. Perhaps ridiculous. Some cases it's gonna be like a 15, 18, something like that. And that is clearly good. Relic, this was a little bit talked about. There's nothing special about this Fiend. And the only special part about him that he strengthens himself at the sight of relics. And that's that. So it just ends up in your graveyard as a very strong unit. And this can be used by the goals. Foglet, you gotta consider the setup. You gotta have a fog up, you gotta have the foglet up, and after then, you start generating value. So that's like at least a 2-turn setup. Then you drop it as drop the foglet. So how it goes? Like fog, foglet. I think that makes the most sense. Then the foglet starts generating value. So in 5 turns, it would be break even. And that is not particularly impressive, sadly, because yeah, you need setup for that. And this is actually better than the foglet because increase the damage dealt by the frost on the opposite row. This is instant. Of course, frost can overkill, and we can like sometimes we see that frost overkills and like this damage doesn't matter. But like, this is basically, you drop this as a 10. Like, if you have Frost on the board, fair enough, you gotta have Frost on the board. Then you drop this as a 10, because you deal more damage with the Frost. Then in another round, it's already an 11. So in 3 turns, this is break even. Unlike the Foglet, which becomes break even in 5 turns. So it's kind of crap. But of course, like, we might just overkill something. That's kind of the nature of Frost, but like, this is a usable card. It's not a popular card, but this is just garbage, sadly. It wouldn't be too crazy just like make this Foglet a 9, maybe even a 10. Just saying. I think 9 would be reasonable, because with 9 it would be average. With 10 it would be above average, so that's no good. I think this could be easily a 9 with according to the new power level. Griffin, clear weather from your row and move a bronze card from one graveyard to another. It's a perfectly fine weather counter. It's always gonna be worth it against single row weather, plus like graveyard manipulation. That could be extra good with like fiends maybe, or just something like you just wanna affect something, you just wanna eat something, and or just like mess up the opponent. That works as well. Like the Queen's Guard, not like they need another nail in the coffin, but still, like it's worth considering. If single row weather is a bane of your existence, then Griffin is definitely your bird. Damn. Rotfiend. It's like a 2 stronger double talent trapper, but it does nothing. It kind of does the same thing, but it cannot do that. Would need to die first. I don't know how to. Fuck. You would need to kill it. Like, if you play this guy, you need to kill it, and you don't want to go for that combo because that's weak. Riders are totally fine. I think they are at the power level, which is fine. I think this is the power level where I could just say like, yeah, Riders are something you can put in your deck. And again, you need the Frost, you need the Rider, and in another round, they become break even in like 3 rounds. But Frost is the most likely better to be, to hit for less. It might just hit for 1, it might just hit for 2. It many times does that. And these Riders are not as good. Like, many times their effect will be wasted. And I think it's 100% fair enough that they start, they are at 9, so I think this makes them playable. Also have an extra effect with Iris, because if you play a Rider and you play Iris, then Iris is gonna be instant, and Iris is gonna blow up instantly, and you can just Caretaker Iris, that works again. Yeah, and Griffin sucks. Like, this is a base 9 that triggers the deathwish of the guys, like, let's just say, like, again, let's just say, like, we're hitting 3 units with it, then we are getting 14... What if this is 23? It's not too bad, I suppose. But, like, why would you bother with it? I suppose you can punish single row stacking if you go for the Griffin Rotfiend combo, but like, oh my god. And this Cockatrice. The thing is, with the Cockatrice, you want to spam deathwish units, but like the Cyclops and the Griffin are not that. And many deathwish units are not spammy. Like, only the Celiano Harpy gives you 2 for 1. Everything else is just the 1 for 1. With the effects, with a big part of their effect locked in their death ability, that is not gonna matter. Like, yeah, Earth Elemental's death ability does usually matter, unless it's the last round, but it doesn't matter. Rotfiend's and Archispor's death ability does not matter unless you trigger it yourself. So, alright, those are the bronzes. Monster Nest is excellent. I don't know why this card is not more popular. It has like crazy selection, and the Drowner is the best here. You can just get out a 10 strength Drowner It's a 10 plus 4. Again, perfect. Like, look at these cards. Like, goal, you can get out the goal if you're just running relic decks. Like, nice. The selection. This is great. Who wouldn't play a Drowner plus a 3? It's usually played a Drowner plus a 3, but you also have flexibility to always get out the Drowner plus a 3, because that's what you want. Morntard, I don't see this. There's nothing wrong with this. Also got some armor now, but you gotta consume a lot, and is it really worth consuming a lot now? I suppose it can be disrupted. There's nothing wrong with Morntard. I think the main problem with consuming a lot, but I don't really want to get ahead of myself a lot, is that the gold cards changed, and Unseen Elder consumes an ally but strengthening self-boosting, repeat 2 times. So, same thing, he consumes 3 stuff, but he's not invincible anymore. And if you're just consuming stuff, like if you're just consuming stuff without synergy, this is just the base 5. Which would make him the worst gold card ever. But even if you're consuming the eggs, you're getting like 17, how much? 12? You're getting 3 times 4, plus 5 on top. Like, that is the best case scenario. And even if you consider that, he's like an average card. But of course, we gotta consider synergies. We can just consider this by itself. I think you're gonna run with like the big spiders and the neckers for sure. So like that, it kinda can be justified, but it's definitely not a popular choice right now. And I suppose he's one of the ones that really suffered the most from the gold changes, because you don't want to have like a massive Unseen Elder eating all your points and like, hey, what's up? I got the speeder over here, right, to wreck you, or just like. He's gonna get countered. He's gonna get destroyed. And I'm not suggesting that he should be invincible and others are not. But maybe he could be different. Because the consumer archetype is a little bit struggling. Slightly because of him. Because it doesn't matter too much if Dagon is dead or Erden is dead. Like, who cares? But like, a leader that just like gets all the value in himself, I suppose that does matter. Anyhow, damn, I need to hurry up with this analysis. But I suppose it's least detailed, so Abaya. I'm not too crazy about Abaya, as we see that her plan B, basically. I consider these mages to be mainly clear weather plus 3. You can spawn the rain, but that's not really what you want. You do that if you like really expect your opponent to have no weather counter. It's gonna be a long round and you really have nothing else to do. But I suppose you wanna save it for a clear sky and just do Arachis Venom if you just have to do something. It's not bad because you got like 15 value out, but this is one option that's not gonna get maximum value like all the time. Alright, actually it's yeah, it's gonna be hard to find maximum value from Arachis Venom, but it's not too bad of a plan B. And again, you usually just want Abaya for the clear skies, but I personally prefer just the first light for the clear skies and go with better silvers. It's fine. Shadow, play a bronze monster deathwish unit from your deck, shuffle the others back. Again, Harpy is not a deathwish unit, it only spawns deathwish units, and the other deathwish units suck, so Shadow would be a good card if those would be good cards as well. But as discussed at the start, I do consider the silvers to be 3 point better than the bronzes, and the golds to be 3 point better than the silvers, or 6 point better than the bronzes. So this is fine. Like this is a great card to include. This is an okay card to include if you're running Deathwish. More wood, this is just if you wanna maybe have some counter against big units, but mostly just for the luck. It didn't get really stronger, and we're gonna see that since the recent bump of the bronzes, where they got stronger. So it's really hard to like define the value of this card, because again, what are you silencing, or what are you really cutting in half? Because he would need to cut in half like a pretty big unit for it to be, so to speak, worth it. If you're just silencing or just hitting a unit that has like 18 power, then he's gonna get a 9 out of that. So again, like if it hits a big unit, it's a good card. Like if it hits like a 9 or a 20, like it's definitely like worth it. Or we just lock up something that would get at a lot of value. I suppose it's worth it again. But like it's not as important right now. In my opinion, the best locker in the game, if you just want deluxe, is in the off-guard, the double luck. And of course, Radovid is a great locker as well. Neutral, damage it by 5. If you have any Vault Hunt units in your hand, damage it by 7 instead. So he's at most of 12. Also can get buffed by the ships. But 12? Well, this is basically a 5 plus also thunder. But I think this is just underpowered. Like, why would you run this when you can run Monster Nest? This is a moving drowner, 10 plus 4. Or a 5 plus 7. I just don't see Nitral even in a Vault Hunt deck really doing much. I believe he's one of the starter cards. Not 100% on that one. It's not terrible if you're going for a Vault Hunt deck, but this is something that I would kick eventually. Unless you're just running into a lot of like 7 power or 6 power bronze or silvers that actually get a lot of power out, and you need to kill them right away. Then I suppose Nitra. Like, it can be a situational choice, but definitely not something that I would just like slam in. Because if it's 6 power, then you can just drown them and throw them into the frost. That kills them. So they need to be like 7 power. Toad Prince. Draw the top card from your deck, then consume a card in your hand. If it's special card, boosts up by 5. Totally fine. You can just consume the spy. You can consume many cards that like don't work out. However, monsters tend to be playing weaker-ish cards these days. Also, they don't really have the crazy big ones. But it's a standard consume card if you're going for that approach. I wouldn't really add it in any other deck, but it's a good card in a consume. And again, just like thins your deck. I think it's a fine card in a consume deck, but I wouldn't put it in every single deck. Karkan, consume a bronze or silver unit from either graveyard. Pretty good. And if he finds like a 9, he's good. And also he can shut down key units from the opponent graveyard. Usually pretty good. Only has one disadvantage, very much like Goal, is that you cannot play this early, or you definitely don't want to play this early. And that's the other thing. And he also serves as a great counter. Crones actually considered a little bit worse since the power level buff of the bronzes, because now the average bronze is a 11 and the average silver is a 14. So by putting 2, you gotta have the crones. First of all, many times the crones are just safe for later, but I just assume you don't even do that. You just play the bronze whenever you can. Then you get a 20 power, and you had to have 2 cards on your multi list. It's a little bit trickier than that because the crones are unique. So if there's a concept named blacklisting in the game. If you mulligan a card, then you cannot get back any card like that. So for example, you mulligan I don't know, anything, any bronze. Like we can just like check it out. Usually like an Arrakis. If you mulligan an Arrakis, you can mulligan freely because you're not gonna get Arrakis. But that is not the case with Crones. That had to be mentioned. But basically you expect 14 value from a silver, and you put 2 Crones on your woolly list, and you get plus 6 value on top of average bronze for putting 2 Crones in your deck. And okay, like you get like 3 each for that. It's nothing crazy, and considering that I would consider at least the silver, putting a silver on the mulligan list value to be like more like a 4. We did see 4 from the Harpy anyway, but for silvers this is definitely a 4. Crones are like, really? And there are many useful cards in the silver slot. Jotun, he's a 15 with a Frost, that also moves. Definitely auto-include if you're running Frost. If you don't run Frost, it could be still okay. He's only a 12, but he can move a lot of guys. He can set up a Hailstorm, but in a Frost, complete auto-include. Ifrit, it used to be a card that I ran like a lot, because when the silver power level was more like a 12. Now it's 14, and this is just a 13. And also the potions, Thunderbolt potions, got weaker as well. So you can't just like put Thunderbolt potions on the Fire Elementals and hope that it's gonna be enough. So that's that, 13 value. Probably don't care about it. Frightener, move a unit on another row, on this side of the row, then draw the top card from the deck. Can also throw this into the Vetter. Gets killed in the Vetter. I have preview of these. Doesn't matter right now. And it's usually an auto-include in the monsters decks. You can also like negate its value in the Vetter. Also moves. It's a pretty good card. So completely auto-include, usually just for the card advantage. But of course the spies cannot be analyzed as like, how strong are they? Like, you usually wanna just give away less value. But many times it just doesn't matter how much value you're giving away. And by moving units, that kind of helps as well. Can also mess up with Bran. Imperial Manticore, why would you run this dum-dum? Like for 12 power? Only value it has is with the consume. But like, then you can just run the relics for 11. I don't know. Probably shouldn't bother with the Imperial Manticore. I wouldn't recommend it. Obviously this is a 2 below average. And finally we have the golds. Gauss is not really great. Draw the top gold card and the top silver card from your deck. Play one and return the other to the top of the deck. It improves your draws. And it gives you like a silver plus a 1. That's like a 15. But that's lackluster for a bronze. Or just gives you a gold plus a 1. Which is fine. I think Gas is a card that you want to consider if your deck is doesn't have too much deck thinning. But it's not a particularly good card, and also it really suffers if you just want to hold like all your gold cards for the last round. Then Gauss is not the best card to hold on to. Unlike other powerhouses that you might want, because it just doesn't compare to like a Woodland Spirit. Because if you're just like all about just holding on to your best cards for last round, then Gauss is not really on that level. Gauss is more like getting maybe a silver out earlier, then getting a gold draw later, something like that. I think it's a respectable card, but definitely more situational now. And I recently only put him in the Vault Hunt deck because he's actually Vault Hunt. And he synergizes from he gets a boost from the ships. But he did actually prove himself to be okay. But again, if you're only getting out the silver, then you're only getting 15 value from him. And he also improves your next draw. Guarantees that it's gonna be a gold. Or of course you can just play him as a gold, like a gold plus 1. Which is fine. And of course, if you wouldn't have drawn into your last gold, then Gas is just pretty good, I suppose. But sometimes you actually draw into all your golds, and he's just gonna be a 1 plus silver. And I think he made more sense as a 2. But yeah. Caretaker, resurrect a bronze or silver unit from your opponent's graveyard. Actually, this is just the worst shiny, because shiny is a 5 plus gives armor and more reliable because it interacts with your own graveyard. Caretaker interacts with the opponent's graveyard. Caretaker actually has a great combo that I do like using with Iris. That way you can actually guarantee that your opponent has something that you like, assuming you actually use up Iris. But yeah, it could be a miss. You know, you just play Caretaker and your opponent just has like complete garbage in the graveyard. I don't think it's a particularly strong card, but of course if you just consider like best case scenario, it's like a silver plus a 4, so that's a 18 right there. So that's good. Caretaker can be a good card, but it's not as good as shiny. And I'm not really sure why they just made Caretaker worse than shiny. Of course, argument can be made that this is a card that can shut down certain strategies. Like, it's kind of like a graveyard hitter in a way. It can shut down Skellige. And shiny doesn't do that. Shiny only interacts with your own board, but that's generally better. Just interacting with your own deck. Like, would you rather play a card from your opponent or from yourself? Anyway, Caretaker is good. I think Iris, the inclusion of Iris definitely makes this card a lot more exciting, because that way you kind of improve your chances, just in case, you know, your opponent is full of shit. You want to have something good. Karen, it's at most a 16, and with a consume synergy, so it's fine in a consuming deck. But again, the consume leader is just not really here. I don't know, maybe we see, but actually the consumer archetype didn't really change. Like, I guess it didn't really get a lot weaker other than Unseen Elder being able to, well, can't get damaged. Succubus is actually an excellent card. After 2 turns at the start of your turn, move the highest unit on the opposite row to your side. But it's so easy to shut down. I don't know if I like cards like this. She's also a beast. So good synergy with the Harpies, but let's just say your opponent has like a 20 strength dude, and you play this for 44 points. Amazing. Like, so above the average. It doesn't even have to get a lot. Like, let's just say your opponent has like a 7 strength dude, 14. That's still a 14 swing, and plus 4 on top. So even that is above average. Like, if she steals anything, she's good. But such a terrible card to run. Look at this. Can't get locked, can't get killed, it dies to everything. The only way you can justify running Succubus in this meta, or just any meta, if you know for a fact that like removal is just really not there. Because you don't really have a plan B with Succubus. You just play her, and she gets killed. Maybe the unit, actually she can get moved too. She can get moved. She can get, well, of course she can get killed. She can get moved. She's target can get moved. Like, so many things can go wrong, and her power is so low. But like, insane potential, but also shuts down by everything. Gets shut down by everything. Woodland Spirit, alias the best monster gold card. It's usually used as a 8 plus Foglet plus Roach plus Harpy plus whatever. Sometimes 2 Harpies. And that's kind of bullshit. But yeah. Like, what can I say? It's like an 8 plus get at a Vetter with the Foglet. Like, even that is like you get 12 value plus, let's just say, like, again, average 4 turns, then it's a 20. Like, okay, that's clearly above average. So in like 3 turns, this is like clearly worth it. Woodland Spirit. Also relic, just in case you want to go for the relic decks. So it's the go-to guy in monsters, and I suppose will stay the same. I have a premium version of it. All Spirit to Sleep. It does have armor on, unlike the Succubus. So that helps it from being completely shut down by everything. But also can get locked. Again, he can get moved, his targets can get moved. A lot of things can go wrong. It's the same tank, but with armor. And it just can be interacted with in so many ways. So, not so much. Drug is a tricky one. You're gonna have to have a very strong card in your graveyard. Most likely you wanna run a relic deck, but Drog is not a relic himself. And your opponent's gonna have something crap. Even then, like, it would probably make more sense if you just wanna shut down something from your opponent graveyard. Like, for example, you just get out a Queen's Guard and you just shut that down. But, like, come on. You don't have to have that just to shut down the Queen's Guard, but Drog is just weird. And of course, you gotta have that dead. And, I don't know what to make of him. It's not great. Character is basically like pretty damn average. He's 8, gets at the Frost in 4 turns. He's like a 16 that also moves 1 unit. Average. He's pretty average. So that's that. It makes more sense with the Wild Hunt. I suppose one of the better Frost spawners. The only Frost spawner. I just spawns Frost. Well, other than one Hamar, but we don't count him. And also they made Imbrad pretty average as well by bumping his strength by 1, damaging him by 4 if it's an enemy under Frost, damage it by 8 instead. We clearly see this is like 17 that can get extra value by finishing off some key unit that generates extra value. So it's pretty good. Average gold. So in the Wild Hunt. So that's good. So that was the monster faction. Tell me guys if you want to see more. So thanks for watching and see you next time.